unveiling 3 spine-chilling alone in the woods horror stories. Terrifying secrets revealed. Nicole had always been a planner, but nothing could have prepared her for this. As she set up the tent with her 2 daughters, Ava and Lily, the autumn breeze carried an eerie chill that made her skin crawl. The forest loomed around them, leaves whispering secrets. A faint rustling echoed nearby, but she forced a smile for the girls. This was supposed to be their escape, a break from bills and the weight of being a single mother. Yet the woods felt alive, almost watchful. "Let us roast marshmallows," Ava shouted. The girls' laughter was beautifully innocent, a symphony of joy clashing with unsettling echoes. But twilight painted the world in shadows. Nicole felt the warmth of the campfire, but also a creeping cold creeping into her bones. What was supposed to be a fun family getaway was morphing into something darker with every snap of a twig. A lump formed in her throat as the dusky darkness settled in. Then, a scream, at least that's how it felt. We found a treehouse." Ava's eyes were wide with excitement. "Can we go see it?" Nicole hesitated, her instincts flaring. She had learned to trust her gut. "Maybe we can wait until morning," she said, her voice faltering. But the girls were already sprinting away towards the unknown, their giggles mixing with the soft rustle of leaves. The treehouse sat ominously in the dimness, cloaked in shadows dark enough to swallow the light. Nicole followed, heart thumping. Inside, disarray ruled. Old photographs cluttered the space. Faces of campers stared out with forced grins, smiles almost too wide for comfort against the backdrop of neglect. A chill raced through her, making her shiver. This wasn't right. "Let us go back," she implored as unsettling thoughts piled onto each other. But Ava and Lily were already drawn in. Suddenly, her phone buzzed a warning from her neighbor. "Be careful. There's a predator who escaped the asylum nearby." Nicole felt her heart drop like a stone. The world outside their little forest getaway felt miles away. Panic surged in her veins, urging her to gather the girls and flee. But Service had vanished, trapping them in this untamed wilderness. "Back the way we came," she whispered, urgency sharpening her voice. But no matter which way they turned, the treehouse loomed again. It was as if the forest itself was taunting them, roots twisting like fingers around her throat. "Stay close," she instructed, panic painting her tone. As they stumbled backwards, they found themselves caught in a relentless maze. The uneasy silence was shattered only by the chorus of leaves, rustling like muffled whispers, slowly tightening the vice of dread around her heart. Then it hit. It wasn't just fear of an outsider. No, something deeper clawed at her spirit. Images of her husband's brother stormed through her mind. A man consumed by grief and bitterness. Could he have lured them here? Was he the monster they were facing? As dawn's light began to tip over the horizon, shedding a modest glow, Nicole gripped her daughters tighter. A figure moved just beyond the trees, pulling her deeper into the shadows. "Stay here, don't move," she cried, dread wrapping around her like ivy. How had they returned to this nightmare? Would she truly confront the demons of her past? Or would the forest swallow them whole? One thing was clear. They weren't alone, and the darkness drew nearer. Nicole's breath quickened as she clutched her daughters, her heart pounding like a war drum against her ribcage. Shadows danced in the early light, and every small rustle sounded like a threat. She pressed her back against the rough, splintered wood of the treehouse, trying to steady herself as the world around her seemed to shift. "Mom, what's wrong?" Lily whispered, her voice trembling. Nicole hushed, the weight of urgency pressing her down. She strained to hear, hoping for a sign that they were safe, but the forest remained an oppressive silence. She felt it, something watching, something waiting. A chilling wind whistled through the trees, causing the branches to creak as if they were whispering secrets. She could almost hear distinct words. "Come to me, no!" she thought, anger bubbling within her. This was her family, and she wouldn't let fear dictate their fate. But what choice did they have? The way back was a tangled mess of roots, perhaps leading them deeper into danger. "We should head back to the tent," Nicole said finally, whispering the words more for her own reassurance than for the girls. She turned around, but as she did, the air felt heavy, as though the forest itself was pushing against her. "What if we get lost again, Mom?" Ava asked, her big brown eyes wide with worry. "Stick together," Nicole instructed. "No one wanders off. We hold hands. Got it?" The girls nodded, and they moved forward, inching cautiously through the underbrush. Leaves crunched underfoot, sharp sounds that pierced the silence. With every step, Nicole scanned the perimeter, searching for movement. Any sign of danger lurking just out of sight. She could almost convince herself it was just the forest playing tricks, her own anxious mind conjuring phantoms. But as they approached the base of their tent, something made her stop. A faint noise drifted through the trees, a low, guttural growl that resonated deep in her chest. Nicole's stomach dropped. That wasn't a deer. Mom? Ava clutched Lily's arm tighter, anxiety radiating between them like a shockwave. "Stay behind me," Nicole ordered, pulling her daughters close. Her mind raced through escape routes, but every potential path seemed choked by the looming trees that mocked her with twisted branches. Where could they go? Just ahead, she spotted their tent. The entrance flapped open, the fabric billowing like a flag of surrender. Panic surged again as she glanced back at her daughters, then back at the tent. "Get inside," she urged, the urgency rising in her voice. What about you?" Lily asked, eyes brimming with tears. "I'll be right behind you. Just go." The girls darted for the tent, and as they slipped inside, Nicola's attention snapped back to the surrounding woods. She had to act. This place was no longer just a getaway. It was a trap. Suddenly, a familiar laugh echoed through the trees. It was taunting, almost jovial, and yet it sent ice down her spine. It was a sound she recognized too painfully well. Had he followed them? Nicola's heart raced as she stumbled backward, her breath hitching. Was her brother-in-law truly out here? All this time, the festering wound from her past had threatened to resurface, and now, it felt like it was clawing through the underbrush to take shape. "Mom!" A whisper threaded through the air, pulling her focus back to the tent. Ava's voice was small and strained. "Get down," she hissed, urgency gripping her. Drawing a shaky breath, she moved towards the tent, her mind racing for anything resembling a plan. The laughing grew closer, and darkness crept around her. Whatever was waiting in the shadows, it was coming for them. Time was running out. "Please, God," she whispered, her thoughts screaming for survival. Nicole ducked low, peering into the shadows where the trees parted, her breath caught in her throat. Ahead, a figure broke through the thickets, and the blood in her veins froze. Was this the moment she'd feared most? But before she could scream, an arm grasped her shoulder from behind. "Did you hear that too?" The voice sent her heart racing again. It was just the beginning of a nightmare she couldn't escape. What was lurking out there, and would they survive long enough to find out? Nicola's heart slammed in her chest as her mind struggled to process the voice behind her. Whipping around, she faced her sister-in-law, Jessica, standing there with wide eyes, her breath shallow and rapid. "Jessica, what are you doing here?" Nicole hissed, the urgency in her tone transparent. They hadn't spoken in months. "Not since that night I didn't mean to scare you," Jessica stammered, glancing nervously toward the direction of the tent. "I thought you might need help. Things got out of hand back home." "Out of hand?" Nicole bit back. "You shouldn't have come. I had to. You have to listen to me. It's not safe out here." Jessica's voice trembled, but the fear in her eyes spoke of more than just the forest. It felt like a storm was brewing inside, one that had little to do with the shadows closing in around them. The laughter echoed again, twisting through the trees. Nicole clenched her fists, the dread coiling further. "We need to get inside the tent now," she said, pulling her sister-in-law by the wrist. As they moved toward the tent, Jessica paused, pulling Nicole to a halt. "The kids, they're safe," Nicole snapped. "We can't let whatever that is find us out here." Without another word, they crouched low, edging forward as another growl rumbled through the darkness, vibrating in her bones. "I heard it too," Jessica whispered, her face pale. It's not a deer, Nicole. It's something else. Shoo. Nicole pressed a finger to her lips, the tension twisting like a knife in her gut. The laughter had twisted into something more sinister, echoing against the barks of the trees, almost mocking them. She pushed her sister-in-law toward the tent's entrance. They had to move fast. Inside, the tent felt suffocating, shadows folding in on them like a massive beast waiting to pounce. The girls huddled in the corner, faces streaked with tears. "Mom!" Ava wailed, and Nicole rushed to her side. "Shoo! Baby, it's okay," Nicole murmured, brushing her daughter's hair soothingly. But Jessica's gaze drifted past the flap. What if he found us? What if he knows we're here? The joking, mocking laughter rang out again, closer this time, enveloping the tent in a quilt of dread. Nicole's heart sank. There was a malevolence in that sound, a darkness that sought them out, ready to pull them into its abyss. "No," Nicole said, her voice steady despite the dread pooling inside her. "He can't know. We can't let him. We just need to stay quiet." An eerie calm settled over them for a moment, but Ava's small voice broke it. "Mom, I'm scared," before Nicole could answer. There was a sudden loud crash outside, the sound of branches snapping beneath a heavy weight. The laughter shifted, mingling with a low snarl. Nicole's breath hitched. They weren't just being hunted. They were being toyed with. She turned fiercely towards Jessica. "We have to move. We can't just sit here like prey." Without waiting for an answer, she unzipped the tent flap and peeked outside. The dark forest loomed ominously, a patchwork of shadows and dreadful uncertainty. "We need to make a run for it back to the car." "Are you crazy?" Jessica whispered urgently. "He's out there. It's not safe. Staying here is not safe either." The growling escalated, sending icy fingers up her spine. Their lives hung by a thread, snipped by the dark laughter that filled the air. As they prepared to make their escape, the laughter transformed into a chilling chant, deep and resonant. They turned towards it, hearts pounding, breaths shallow. But what they saw left them paralyzed. A figure emerged through the trees. Not human, not animal, it was something in between, grotesque and warped. Nicole couldn't breathe. Who was this creature? "Stay back," she yelled, but it advanced, the eyes blazing with a hunger that shattered any hope they had left. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, but as she grabbed her daughters and pulled them close, she realized one terrible truth. Whatever was in the woods with them wasn't just after them. It was deliberately drawing them in, and they were running out of time. In that heartbeat of realization, she made one desperate choice that would change everything forever. "Run," she shouted. But into what? The shadows invited them deeper. Would they find safety, or was there only darkness that awaited? The forest swallowed their cries, the darkness thickening around them like an unfurling tidal wave. Nicole's instincts kicked in. She shoved the tent flap open, forcing Jessica and the girls through. Her heart pounded, the echo of the creature's chant rattling in her bones. They spread out, darting between the trees, the air electric with dread and the musk of damp earth. "Which way?" Jessica shouted, her voice shrill and panic-laden. "Towards the road," Nicole yelled back, her mind racing to calculate their chances. Behind them, the growl morphed into a crow-like caw, cruel and mocking, weaving through the branches. It sounded excited, alive. The darkness felt like a living entity, clawing at their backs. Ava stumbled, her pigtails swinging wildly as she fell. Nicole quickly turned, fear clutching her throat. "Get up, Ava!" She reached for her daughter, lifting her up without a second thought. They pressed on, the trees closing in as if whispering secrets of ages past, but nothing could drown out the sinister laughter. Nicole pressed her ear to the rhythmic thumps of their fleeing hearts, drowning out the oppressive sound. "We have to keep going." Suddenly, Jessica skidded to a halt. "It's gone. I can't hear it anymore." "No, don't stop," Nicole cried, adrenaline fueling her decision. This could be a trap. They needed to keep moving. The road was within their grasp if only the shadows would part. Heaving breaths became shallow gasps as they stumbled through the underbrush. Nicole caught a glimpse of Jessica's fear-stricken face, eyes wide and frantic. She could feel it, too. An unseen presence lurking just beyond the tree-line. A weight pressing down, urging them to falter. A snap of a twig echoed painfully in the stillness. And then silence. They paused, hearts pounding in the heavy void, the tension thickening into something monstrous. It was suffocating, paralyzing. Just when she thought hope might escape through their desperate breaths, the silence shattered anew. The creature's moan rang through the trees like a dirge, deepening into a guttural echo. It felt like the forest itself was mocking them. Nicole tightened her grip on Ava, who buried her face into her mother's neck, small fingers clawing against her shirt. "Keep moving," Nicole hissed, but dread hung heavy in the air, thick as fog. They took one step and then another, every stride pulling them closer to the shadow of uncertainty. But when they finally reached a clearing, it was painful to see what lay ahead. The road was visible, but also a soft light illuminating it. A chilling realization settled over her. They were not alone. Figures danced in the distance, their forms flickering amid the growing darkness. Nicole squinted, dread unfurling in her gut. They were too far away to identify, but something about their movements felt wrong, unnaturally jubilant, as if a sick celebration was taking place. "Who are they?" Ava trembled in her arms, her voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," Nicole admitted, fear twisting her insides. "But they don't look friendly." Jessica's voice cracked. "We need to go back. Back to the tent." "No," Nicole barked, the fear of what was behind them hanging too heavy in the air. "If we turn back now, they might trap us." They were at a crossroads, the foreboding light ahead taunting them. But as they edged closer, the laughter erupted again, this time intermingled with screams from those shadowy figures. A cacophony of celebrations and horrors intertwined suddenly. A low growl vibrated in the atmosphere around them. Nicole turned toward the sound, fear coursing through her veins as yet another horror unfurled from the trees. This time, the creature wasn't hidden in the shadows. It stepped forward, revealing its grotesque visage, fangs glistening under the moonlight, eyes like twin coals stoked with malice. They were trapped, enveloped in chaos. The shadows thrummed and twisted, a serpent ready to strike, and she knew the depths of their terror were just beginning. "Run," Jessica said, voice trembling in a soft, desperate gasp. But where? To the distant light of that twisted gathering, to the clawing shadows that danced toward them. The weight of the creature's hunger hung heavily in the air, its gaze fixed on them, pulling them deeper into its sinister game. Nicole barely caught her breath before blaring out the one shaky command that could save them, but where would it lead them? Run. But were they running toward salvation, or straight into the jaws of something far worse? Panic surged as Nicole instinctively tugged Jessica and Ava into a sprint. The sound of their feet thrumming against the earth mingled with the creature's roar, forming an eerie symphony of terror. Adrenaline spurred them onward, each step a desperate plea for survival. "Keep up," Nicole shouted, glancing back at the looming nightmare that chased them down the narrow path. The gleaming fangs of the creature glinted in the moonlight, growing closer with each heartbeat. Shadows stretched and writhed, revealing more grotesque forms that twisted through the trees. Their shapes stretched and maligned, mocking their frantic escape. "Mommy, I'm scared." Ava's voice cracked, fear rising like a tidal wave. Nicole held tighter to her, pushing forward with resolve. "We're almost there." But the flickering light ahead flickered like a siren's call. The jubilant figures writhed as if pulled by invisible strings, an insidious dance, tantalizing and treacherous, tempting them to approach. Each echoing laugh pierced through the night, mixing with the deep-seated growl of the beast behind them. Jessica fell back. "There's no way out. We're going to die." "Don't say that." Just Nicole's voice faltered, catching in her throat as they neared the edge of the clearing. The horror unfolded. It was not an innocent gathering but a ghastly display. The figures wore unsettling, ecstatic expressions, spattered in darkness, blood, and something that glimmered ominously like moonlight reflecting on water. "Turn back," Jessica screamed, eyes wide with shock. No, keep, but it was too late. A rush of black appeared from the shadows, snaking around their legs, pulling them back. The air thickened, wrapping around them in a suffocating embrace. Nicole struggled, fear clawing at her throat as the calls of the figures blended into a chant, pulling them forward, imprisoning their wills. "Mama!" Ava cried, her small hand slipping from Nicole's grasp. "Grab her!" Jessica screamed, but as Nicole lunged, two of the shadow figures were upon her, eyes gleaming like polished stones, their grip too strong. "No!" Panic erupted. Every nerve screamed as Nicole fought against the icy hands clutching her arms, dragging her towards the grotesque revelry. Desperation coursed through her veins, wildfire consuming her heart. In a moment of raw instinct, Nicole shouted the only thing that made sense amidst the chaos. "Ava, run!" The chant grew louder, overwhelming her senses, but she could still hear the shuffle of tiny feet retreating. Just beyond the screams and laughter, she registered the reality. The road where escape lay became a pinprick of hope, dwindling in the shadows. "Follow me," Jessica cried, wrestling against their captors. But the figures flared brighter, drawing everything closer into their sinister delight, as if summoned by the very forest. Gripped by despair, Nicole thrashed harder, swinging her fists against the cold and unyielding arms that held her captive. The creature's growl echoed ahead, a terrible sound that punctuated their struggle. The joyful figures began to swirl around, creating a circling wave, building an impenetrable wall. And in that moment, Nicole caught a glimpse of Ava, her small form fading away in the distance as she fled. "Stop her!" A voice barked from the laughter, monstrous yet almost human, freezing Nicole's blood. With renewed strength, Nicole wrenched one arm free, launching herself toward the edge of the clearing. But when they began to chant something darker, something that made the trees tremble, a spell that felt like it was weaving through her very soul. "Run, Ava! Don't stop!" Nicole shouted, wordless urgency swelling in her chest. The laughter morphed, unearthing a deep-rooted fear, crawling under her skin like 1,000 ants. She could feel the fire of panic igniting in her heart as she pushed forward, desperation giving her a semblance of clarity. Maybe the chanting would stop if she reached the road in time. But at that instant, a harsh realization struck. Their escape was just a pretense, a tangle of dark magic trapping them deeply within the forest's grip. With renewed terror, she twisted around to see Jessica ensnared, arms outstretched, hands clawing at the air as she was pulled endlessly toward the lurking shadows. "No!" Nicole's scream broke the air, but it was swallowed by the waiting embrace of the night. Then, out of the shadows, a figure emerged. It wore a face familiar yet twisted, a reflection of the deepest, forgotten memories. It danced forward, drawing them into the chaos of laughter and screams. "Join us! Join us!" echoed the haunting voices, mixing with the pulse of her drifting heart. Nicole's blood went cold as she recognized the truth. Ava was in their sights, and the darkness was hungry. Get away from her! But their grip reopened the crevices of nightmares long buried. Every synapse in her body told her to run back, to fight, to save what remained of her family. Yet could she save herself from the impending horror, or would she become another lost whisper in the woods? A decision loomed ahead, the line between rescue and ruin fraying. She was teetering on the edge of something far darker. Would they all fight back against their fates together, or fall prey to the darkness hanging like a guillotine? The circle of twisted figures drew near, laughter bubbling into a crescendo, and the echo of her daughter's name lingered in the air, heavy with a sense of finality. "Run!" As the ground trembled, Nicole took a leap into the unknown, not knowing if she would emerge unscathed or join the dance of the lost. Nicole's heart pounded as she hurtled through the underbrush, branches slapping against her arms and face, leaving stinging welts and a trail of blood. Each rancid breath filled her lungs with the scent of decay, wet earth, moss, and something far worse laid thick in the air. She no longer dared look back, terror propelling her forward even as her mind screamed to stop, to turn, to save Jessica and Ava. The forest twisted around her, a living thing determined to disorient. Shadows elongated and contracted, flickering like the candlelight of a dying flame. Just moments ago, they were escapees. Now they were prey, and the predatorous howl hung thick in the breeze, wrapping around her like a sinister whisper. Please, God, let them be safe, she gasped the prayer, but doubt gnawed at her. The sound of laughter echoed through the trees, a sickening reminder of the shadowed figures, cold and mocking. Ahead, a clearing beckoned, a space drenched in moonlight, yet it felt wrong, warped. The light pulsed, almost breathing, a heartbeat of the forest. With each frantic step, she felt the pressure of the dark closing in. Then she saw it. A fire, flickering in the center of the clearing, casting grotesque shapes that danced along the ground. People, figures, stood around it, laughter spilling from their lips like the sinister drool of the creature. Their faces were painted with ecstasy, shadows of lost souls torn between madness and celebration. No. Nicole stumbled back, realization crashing like a wave. They weren't just celebrating, this was a feast, and she was to be part of the main course. She turned, eyes frantically searching the treeline for Jessica and Ava, but only found the beckoning glint of those twisted faces, their smiles wide and all-consuming. Despair clawed at her chest as the laughter grew louder, becoming a malevolent chant that pulsed in rhythm with her racing heart. Join us, they sang, their voices a haunting melody interwoven with taunts and jeers that made the blood freeze in her veins. Nicola's hands trembled as she forced herself to move, slinking along the perimeter of the clearing, her mind racing. If she could just reach the edge, maybe she could find a way to rescue them. Maybe if she could just find Ava. A sudden rustle behind her froze her. Heart hammering, she whipped around. Shadows shifted, coiling. But this time they were no longer distant. They loomed, lurking, drawing closer, every sinister whisper rendering her paralyzed. Nicole, a voice called. The sound, so familiar, sent chills racing down her spine. Ava? Panic surged as she stepped forward, desperately searching the dark. Help me, the voice echoed, eerily distant as if it came from somewhere deep inside the forest. No, her voice trembled with terror. She stumbled forward, each step a fight against an invisible force that wanted to drag her back, steal her from the very light of the clearing. But her resolve surged. She could not let the darkness swallow her. Not now. Ava! Nicole screamed, the name echoing, pleading into the night. Just as she broke through the shadows, a figure darted past the flames. Too quick, too small. It was a blur of movement, spiraling away from the firelight and toward her, toward salvation. Nicola's heart soared until she recognized the unmistakable visage of one of the shadowy figures, grinning widely, its eyes glimmering with unnatural glee. Join us, it beckoned, extending an icy hand that nearly sent her screaming back into the depths. No, she lunged, screaming, breaking the choking binds of the dark magic. The sounds of chaos swelled around her, a cacophony that threatened to drown her sanity. But somewhere beyond the firelight, she saw Jessica entangled in shadow, battling the figures that clutched her. With a surge of new strength, Nicole felt a flicker of hope ignite as she raced toward her friends. But the space around her warped. The laughing figures surged in. Join us, they shouted again, their chorus building. Suddenly the ground shook. The fire flared higher, turning crimson, illuminating the twisted faces. Around her, Nicole barely breathed as she pushed forward. But then the hair on her neck prickled. Shrieking laughter cut through the air, and a nightmarish form surged into view, an embodiment of dread. A creature beyond comprehension. Eyes like two bottomless pits darting toward her. Just as she reached Jessica, a voice boomed, your time is over. The ground collapsed beneath them, and with a final, desperate scream, they both plummeted into the abyss, the laughter haunting them as darkness swallowed all hope. What fate awaited them in the foreboding unknown? Would they rise again, or were they destined to become shadows themselves, lost in the unending maze of the night? Nicola's breath snagged in her throat as she fell, weightless. She felt the crushing void envelop her, a suffocating shroud that pressed closer with every fleeting second. Then, just as suddenly, she hit ground hard. The impact jarred her, forcing her to gasp for air. Pain shot through her shoulder as she rolled onto the damp earth. Shadows swirled around her, sinister forms darting just out of reach. She lifted herself shakily to her knees, heart racing, eyes wide with terror. "Jessica," she called, voice breaking. A heavy silence lingered, thicker than grave dirt. Just echoes of despair and the haunting laughter from above. Now a distant memory. With effort, Nicole forced herself to stand. The dark forest seemed alive, shadows shifting and whispering secrets into the oppressive gloom. "Ava? Jessica?" she shouted again, desperation clawing at her throat. Suddenly a flicker caught her eye. Just beyond the gnarled roots of an ancient tree, something glimmered like broken glass. Cautiously, she stepped toward it, pulse racing, fingers trembling. As she kneeled to inspect the strange shards, the air thickened, a palpable tension wrapping around her like a coiling snake. It was a necklace. A small charm the shape of a crescent moon, dull and tarnished, lay half buried in the leaves. Nicole's blood ran cold as she recognized it. It was Jessica's. "No, no, no," she whispered, a chill crawling up her spine. She glanced around, fear pulsing in her veins. "Jessica!" Panic surged anew, and she tore through the underbrush, heart throbbing. As she stumbled deeper into the forest, the ground quivered beneath her feet. The laughter, now clearer, but more twisted, resonated through the trees. It felt less like jests and more like a warning, a cruel reminder of what awaited. Nicole pressed on, the oppressive weight of darkness pooling around her. A shiver ran down her spine as tortured moans echoed in the distance. Each cry felt familiar, a reflection of her own fears, but the voices began to meld, creating a grotesque symphony of despair. Suddenly, a flash of movement caught her attention. Someone or something darted through the trees. Nicole's heart leaped. "Ava?" she called, straining to see. The figure hesitated, cloaked in shadow, before bolting again, just out of sight with adrenaline surging. Nicole chased after it, branches snagging at her clothes, scraping her skin. She couldn't stop now. Desperation propelled her, but the forest twisted, confusing her direction. Left, then right as shadows twisted and leered. The figure flashed again, this time closer. Nicole lunged forward and stumbled into a small clearing where the moonlight broke through the canopy, a safe haven surrounded by looming darkness. But the figure was gone. "Where are you?" Nicole cried, panting. In the quiet, a soft whimper rang out, fragile and broken. It pulled at the corners of her mind, sending fear spiraling deeper. She turned, searching the shadows, when her eyes landed on a small heap in the far corner of the clearing. She rushed over to discover a tangled mass of branches, and there, amidst the broken debris, lay something that made her blood run cold. Jessica's backpack. Nicole fell to her knees, dread flooding her senses. She unzipped it slowly, heart racing, half expecting something horrific to tumble out. But only silence met her. Leathery straps and dirt-stained pockets mocked her with their emptiness. Then, a rustle in the leaves drew her attention. Nicole spun, instinctively bringing her hands up to shield herself. The laughter burst forth, echoing louder than before. It surrounded her, tightening like a vice, suffocating. "Join us! Join us!" The cruel chorus echoed from all directions, and Nicole felt the shadows close in, weaving around her, tightening, transforming the space into a claustrophobic prison. And then, through the cacophony, a familiar voice threaded like a lifeline. "Help me, Nicole!" It was Ava, voice raw, filled with terror. Nicole's breath caught. "Where?" she cried, desperate to reach her friend. But the laughter crescendoed, drowning out everything else. As the darkness pulsed, responding to her fear with increasing ferocity. "Join us," they chanted, a sickly sweet symphony urging her deeper into their trap. Heart hammering, Nicole glanced around, desperately searching for a way out as shadows twisted and merged, threatening to claw at her. "Where are you, Ava?" she screamed, willing any shred of hope to return. But what awaited her? Did she dare follow the voice into the dark? The ground trembled again beneath her, an ominous reminder that time was running out. What horrors lurked behind the next tree, waiting to claim her? Would she join the mocking laughter or find a way to escape? The shadows warped and twisted, leaving Nicole breathless, almost choking on her pulse. Each mirthless echo of laughter felt like a physical blow, pushing her deeper into despair. She fought to keep the tears at bay, the raw desperation spiraling around her like a noose. "Ava!" she shouted again, her voice cracking under the weight of looming darkness. "Help me, Nicole!" The plea floated on the air, twisted and tremulous. It rooted her, locking her in place for an agonizing heartbeat. "I'm here," she screamed, panic-stricken, trying to pinpoint the source. The laughter warped into a cacophony, swirling mockingly. "You'll never find her. Join us." Something slithered through her mind, a flicker of memory from that fateful day at the lake. The warnings, the superstitions whispered by locals. "Never seek what doesn't want to be found," they said. But how could she abandon Ava? How could she turn back when her friend was out there, screaming for help? A surge of resolve washed over her. "I won't leave you," Nicole whispered fiercely, pushing doubt aside. Taking a deep breath, she plunged into the darkness, following the source of the voice, heart pounding against her ribcage like a war drum. The forest grew, tendrils of shadow reaching for her. She sprinted past trees that loomed like ancient sentinels, their gnarled branches clawing at the night sky. "Ava!" Panic dripped through her voice, battling the haunting laughter that echoed in her ears. She stumbled, the ground beneath her trembling unnaturally. Each step felt tense, as if the earth was whispering prisons of torment designed to ensnare her soul. Then she saw it, a flickering light, hesitant and fragile, weaving between the trees like a promise. "Ava!" she shrieked, bolting toward it. Her feet crunched on twigs, branches snagging at her, desperate to steer her away. But she pushed through. The light flickered again, brighter this time. This way it beckoned softly, and Nicole's heart surged with hope. She followed it, twisting and turning, trying to ignore the laughter that throbbed in time with her heartbeat. Then, as suddenly as the light appeared, it vanished. Nicole plunged into a fog that rolled low, thick and clammy, suffocating. She forced herself to breathe, trying to calm the terror clawing at her chest. "Ava!" she cried, voice trembling. Just a whisper of a reply faded into the fog. A chill washed over her, creeping through her skin. Shadows danced just outside her vision. Then they surged forward. Nicole spun around, adrenaline propelling her deeper into the mist. "Join us!" They beckoned again, an agonizing symphony, each word dripping with malevolence. She pressed on, determination driving her forward, but with every step, the air crackled with impending doom. Suddenly, she skidded to a halt, wide-eyed. The fog parted slightly, revealing a sight that froze her blood. A twisted, gnarled tree stood tall in the clearing ahead, its trunk blackened and covered in etching symbols she couldn't decipher. But chills ran through her as she recognized one. It was the same crescent moon that hung from Jessica's necklace. Nicole's heart first leapt in recognition, and then plummeted as she understood. "No," she gasped. "No, no, no." The ground trembled violently, shaking off her resolve, as she stumbled back, pressing her back against the nearest tree for support. But darkness pooled around the base of the tree, whispering promises that dripped like poison into her ears. "Join us, forever." Suddenly the shadows shifted. Nicole's breath hitched as a figure emerged, wrapped in a shroud of mist, a face she knew. Ava's features were gaunt, eyes hollow and glazed, a monstrous mirror of despair. "Help me, Nicole," she rasped, voice barely above a whisper. But as Nicole reached out, the shadows around Ava twisted, taunting her grasp. The ground quaked again, and Nicole felt the trees call to her, roots stretching, branches reaching. "Help me!" Ava cried again, a phantom of hope colliding with incomprehensible horror. The laughter swelled, louder and more menacing, replacing every thought but one: survival. Nicole hesitated. Did she dare reach out to the apparition of her friend, or would she slip into the void alongside those who had been consumed before her? With every ounce of strength, she clenched her fists, poised to make her choice. The shadows rippled closer, hungry, waiting to seize her. Would she stand and fight the ancient evil before her, or would she, too, be drawn into the abyss? Choose, the shadows whispered, echoing through the forest, blurring the line between hope and despair. In that moment of breathless uncertainty, she knew one thing: something more sinister was at play, threatening to envelop them both. What would she ultimately sacrifice to break the cycle? What price would she pay for freedom? A deafening silence fell. Nicole's heart drummed wildly as she stared into those hollow eyes, searching for a flicker of recognition, a spark of the friend she loved. But Ava was gone, replaced by something grotesque and fearsome, bound in shadows and regret. The forest pulsed around her, the trees leaning in, hungry and impatient. "Help me," the plea echoed through Nicole's mind. There was an urgency, a desperation that gnawed at her sanity. Just beneath the surface of Ava's voice lay the unspoken horrors, deeper than she could ever comprehend. Nicole felt the roots of the gnarled tree reach toward her, whispering promises of power and belonging. But beneath those silky promises lay a sinister grip, one that threatened to pull her in. "I won't abandon you," she shouted back, knowing how weak her words sounded against the cacophony. "Join us." The shadows danced feverishly, beckoning, luring her deeper into their web. The nearer they came, the more tangible their menace. Confusion swirled. Was this truly Ava asking for help, or was it a cruel trick, meant to coax her into their eternal darkness? As she hesitated, more laughter erupted around her, the sound slashing through her resolve. It was manic and twisted, reckless abandon joyfully celebrating her torment. "Join us," they shrieked, their voices intertwining with her own fears and regrets. "No," Nicole screamed, shaking her head as if that simple action could shatter the darkness encompassing her. "You're not my friend. Ava wouldn't want this." But doubt crept into her heart. What if she was mistaken? What if Ava really needed her? The edges of logic frayed, and without thinking, Nicole took a step closer. "Nicole, please," Ava's voice broke, layered with anguish. "I'm trapped. Help me break free." Nicole reached, fingers trembling, nearly brushing against the illusion of her friend. But the shadows recoiled, wrapping tighter around Ava, their grip tightened like a vice. The sacrifice of freedom loomed ominously before her, a crossroads drenched in horrors yet unseen. With that taste of dread caressing her senses, Nicole withdrew. A choice must be made, and she could feel the weight of the decision settle heavily on her, thick and suffocating. The laughter echoed like knives in her ears, a reminder of what awaited those who faltered. "Fight!" Nicole shouted into the void, courage igniting within her. "You're stronger than this." A roar of rage erupted from the shadows, and the earth trembled with their fury. "You know nothing about strength," they shrieked, a disembodied chorus sharpening into a singular terrifying presence. "You seek to defy fate." Nicole steadied herself. "I will not join you." With a fierce determination, she turned away from the gnarled tree, her legs propelling her backward through the fog as she shunned despair. The shadows shrieked in protest, writhing in anger. "You can't escape." They surged forward, a formless mass seeking to embrace her in icy darkness. A sudden burst of clarity lit her thoughts. What if the key lay not in fighting, but in understanding? "Ava," she called, voice breaking through the chaos. "Tell me how to save you." The forest quieted momentarily, the shadows hanging on the precipice of her words. A breath, a flicker of hope ignited in the air. "There's a way, but it's dangerous." "Anything," Nicole shouted, refusing to back down. The fog thickened, darkness billowing outward, spinning rumors of broken dreams. "You must confront the keeper," Ava's voice whispered, as if the shadows strained to avoid her truth. "He controls the curse." A chill shot down Nicole's spine, paralyzing fear mingling with a resolve as deep as the roots of the trees around her. "And where do I find him?" she demanded. The shadows convulsed, rage bubbling beneath the surface. "You'll pay a price and the darkness will never forget," they hissed, but Nicole stood firm. "Tell me." And then, A terrible laughter broke free, rumbling earth and exposing the grotesque reality of the looming threat. The keeper's laughter reverberated, chilling her to the bone. "Fool, you think you can erase my mark?" In that moment, the dance of shadows snapped at her heels with a voracious hunger. Nicole bolted, fueled by adrenaline and haunted whispers. She needed to find the keeper and uncover the truth. But in the chaos, as the darkness chased her through the twisting trees, a thought sparked in her mind. Did she really understand what she was getting into? Or would she become part of the darkness, a pawn in a wicked game? An unseen hand gripped her heart, holding her urges at bay. She pressed onward, the forest now a living nightmare. Would she confront the keeper and survive? Or would she be lost forever, consumed by the shadows she so desperately sought to escape? As she ran, the laughter echoed louder, teasing her as she merged deeper into the darkness. It was a game, and the stakes were higher than she'd imagined. What lay ahead could be her salvation or her doom. Nicole's lungs burned as she sprinted deeper into the twisting forest, the shadows creeping closer, wrapping around her like a shroud. The tree trunks loomed like gnarled hands reaching out, desperate to pull her back into their darkness. Heart hammering, she fought back the mounting panic. The faint whisper of Ava's voice echoed in her mind, "Confront the keeper." The thought flickered like a candle in a storm. She wasn't just running away. She was pushing toward something. A chance to save her daughter, to break the curse that had trapped them all in this nightmare. Suddenly, a figure emerged ahead, stepping into the moonlight, a tall, imposing shadow, draped in tattered black robes. The air shifted, tension thickening like smoke. It was him, the keeper. Nicole skidded to a halt, breath hitching. "What do you want?" The words tumbled out, laced with defiance. His smile was wide and twisted, lips stretching like a grotesque mask. "Welcome, seeker. You've come to play?" His voice echoed, slippery and sinister. "So few dare confront me. What a treat. Let my daughter go." Nicole shouted, anger flaring within her. "She is innocent." The keeper's laughter rang through the forest, an unnerving symphony. Innocence is but a fleeting illusion here. Shadows coiled around him, dancing eagerly. "You wish to save her? Every price has its cost, my dear." Dread gripped Nicole's heart. "I'll pay whatever it takes." His eyes glimmered with a fleeting curiosity. "Very well. But know this, the darkness feeds on fear and despair. Do you truly understand what you are promising?" Nicole gritted her teeth, forcing herself to stand tall. "I'll do whatever it takes. Then the game shall commence." The keeper raised his arms, shards of darkness spilling from his fingertips, swirling around them like a storm. "Find your daughter in the shadows of your past. For to save her, you must face what you have buried deep within." A cold wave washed over Nicole, plunging her into a vision, a past she desperately tried to forget. Suddenly, she was in a small room, the air steeped in grief. Memories flooded back. Her husband's brother, his haunting words, resentment wrapped in the guise of family. A flicker of Ava appeared through the haze, her small face painted with confusion and fear. "Mom, where are you?" "No," Nicole shouted, reaching out, but the keeper's shadows twisted, pulling her deeper into the memory. "Face it," he commanded, his voice booming through the fog. The darkness splintered before her, revealing moments long shunned in argument, raw and unyielding, filled with howling regrets. She could see his face, twisted in anger, the last time she had seen him before he spiraled into the depths of despair. "You think you can defeat the darkness?" The keeper's voice rasped as visual fragments surrounded her. "You are tied to it, bound by blood. Your husband's family has birthed a legacy of isolation and grief." "No," Nicole gasped as reality shifted. The shadows enveloped the memories, and she was torn between the anguish of the past and the cries echoing from the present. "Ava needs me." With a surge of determination, she pushed through, fighting against the sorrow and regret. "I won't give in." The keeper's laugh pierced her resolve. "But can you really stand against your own darkness?" A sudden clarity struck Nicole. "This isn't just about me. It's about Ava. I will not let your shadows consume her life like they did hers. No, the keeper roared, darkness swirling violently as he strained against her will. You're weak. Maybe so, but in her weakness lay a new strength. Nicole steadied her breath, channeling every ounce of love she felt for her daughter. Ava, I'm coming. The shadows recoiled, the flickering memories spiraled away, and the forest trembled. Nicole's determination ignited a beacon of light that pierced through the gloom. The keeper shrieked, the shadows flickering like dying embers. No, you can't escape. With a final push, Nicole broke free, tearing away from the depths of despair. She sprinted toward the source of the cries that resonated in her heart. Ava, she called, breaking through a wall of darkness that pulsed, a barrier now weak and trembling. Emerging from the gloom, she stumbled into a new clearing, bathed in soft moonlight. There, in the center, was Ava, tears streaming down her face, a terrified reflection of herself yet untouched by the darkness. Mom! Ava cried, arms outstretched. Nicole surged forward, scooping her up into a fierce embrace. I'm here. I'm here. The shadows screeched, the keeper's rage echoing in the air. No, you can't escape your fate. But Nicola's heart pulsed with a fierce light now, love burning brightly against the sinister call of darkness. Together, they stood tall, facing the swirling tempest. As the darkness closed in, Nicole held Ava tightly. We are stronger together. With those words, they pushed forward, battling the remnants of the keeper's grasp. A burst of light erupted between them, shattering the darkness like glass. The keeper roared, dissolving into shadows as the forest trembled. And then silence. They stood in the clearing, the echoes of laughter gone, replaced with weary calm. Holding Ava in her arms, Nicole looked deep into her daughter's eyes, seeing the warmth of life flickering against the night. We're free now, Nicole whispered, a tide of relief washing over her. Together, they turned to leave, stepping away from the nightmares that had shackled their spirits. As they walked, the forest breathed a sigh of relief, shadows retreating from their path. And when they finally reached the edge of the woods, a new dawn broke, illuminating the path ahead, a hopeful horizon stretching into the future. Mom! Ava breathed at her side, eyes wide. We did it. Yes. Nicole smiled, heart swelling with gratitude. She kissed the top of her daughter's head, feeling the bond between them pulsing like an unbreakable chain. As the sun kissed the treetops, Nicole knew that no darkness could stand against the light they carried together. And then they stepped forward into a world where shadows could touch them, but could never hold them again. Now it's time for you to do your part. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm with love. Flood the comments with your reactions and theories. What do you think happened to that dark forest? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand how vital your support is. Let us keep the stories alive together.